Hi, hello, my name's Nicole. Welcome to the booktube newbie tag. If you have been subscribed to this channel for a minute, which you might have been because this channel is not exactly what one might call new, you might have seen this video and my name on it and newbie and said to yourself, liar! Liar! Listen, I have my reasons for doing a newbie tag, even though I'm not in fact a newbie, and hopefully they will make sense by the end of this video, and maybe they won't, and you'll be like, no, you're just actually a liar, and I'm unsubscribed. And that's fine too. Do whatever you gotta do. I was inspired to do this by Starry Steph, who is also a clipboard girly, but with all of that preamble out of the way and full acknowledgement of the fact that I am not actually a newbie, let's get to it. Question 1, why did you start this channel? I started this channel for reasons of community building and like personal creative outlet. At no point would I ever have said that this is a booktube channel per se, though I have made a lot of booktube content, which I will put into a playlist and I'll link in the description and in the cards. The oldest videos on this channel are definitely private, but back in my blogging days, there were a number of things where like the community of bloggers that I was a part of would do a thing, few different things, but where there was like some sort of video component where it'd be fun to embed a video of some sort. These videos are all private, you cannot see them, but but they are some of the oldest things that existed on this channel. Trying to connect with other people and also just have a silly, goofy time was the driving ethos of this channel when I first created it. It still is now. And so that's why I did it. What are some fun and unique things that you can bring to BookTube? A majority, or at least half of the videos in the BookTube content playlist that I'm going to link in the description will be live streams, nonfiction book club live streams that I have been doing with my friend Deboki for the last 5 years now. We started in 2020. We took a little break after my dad died and then another little break last year because she had a baby. But we've been doing it fairly consistently since April of 2020. And in general, I do read a lot of nonfiction, at least by volume. I don't think I necessarily read as many total books as many people on BookTube. Also, going back to the last question about how I do not fundamentally consider this a BookTube channel, I refuse to do the thing that you actually should do if you want to grow a platform here and have a niche. I refuse to do that. My actual like day job that pays my bills is that I'm the executive producer of a science YouTube channel. And for that reason, I have a lot of like thoughts, feelings, suggestions about things that you can or should do if you're trying to be strategic about it. But I fundamentally refuse to do those things here in this space because that's what I do for my job. I don't know if that logic actually makes sense to anybody but me, but it makes sense to me, and that's really all that matters. Anyway, in answer to this question of unique things that I will bring to BookTube is like not BookTube, like not talking about books. Somewhere in a box in this basement and in the like bowels of my computer is a box containing a half-completed dress and a vlog about making that dress, but I was trying to do a sort of combined reading vlog and sewing vlog. I did have like a cohesive theme, how all of those things were being tied together. I never finished that video because I was working on it when my dad died, so who can say if I'll ever finish that project? But I do want to try to do more things like that, maybe. I'm rambling, losing the plot a little bit here, but my point is that there are ways to talk about books and or like let books frame your thinking about other things that aren't necessarily making the whole thing about books. Question 3, what are you most excited for about this new channel? Okay, so the reason that I am doing this thing where I'm being a lying liar who lies and doing a newbie tag, even though I'm in fact not like a newbie, is that I'm really excited about a number of friends who are maybe gonna dip their little toes into YouTube. You can't see that I'm like dipping my toes, but that's what's happening. I can't show you, no feet for free, but like dipping their toes into YouTube. And I'm really excited to see them try things. I'm excited about getting to see more stuff from people who I love and who I think are just interesting and thoughtful. And I'm really excited about the prospect of getting to see what they will do with a new platform. Something that I've been saying to all of my book talk friends who are thinking about making YouTube videos and that I extend to you, even if you're not somebody who I know, we're friends now, you're here, is that I would encourage you to see this if you're thinking about doing it. You don't have to do it, do whatever you want. But if you're thinking about getting onto YouTube, I would strongly encourage you to see it as an opportunity to like play. I think that for anybody who has built a substantial platform, there is understandable, justified, earned anxiety about the fact that you cannot port that over to a new space. That's true. Like that, I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh yes, you can super easily come on over here and rebuild that thing. That is no, you're right. You are right about the difficulties of that. That is true. This is different than that. And I think that like in the beginning, you will do things that don't work quite the way that you want them to, because that's like the normal process of starting something. It's worth keeping in mind that you have transferable skills, that like the knowledge that you have of how TikTok works is a good framework for figuring out how this space works. There's not a lot to be optimistic about at this precise moment in time, but I am holding just like the tiniest space for optimism about like people seizing that opportunity for like creativity and trying new things, and how that, I don't know, might also affect what people are doing here on this space. I'm going to flip questions 4 and 5. So question 5 is, what book or series got you into reading? Like, so hard to say because I feel like I have always been reading. I'm 36 years old and I feel like I was an avid reader from the moment that I figured out how to do it. But I was a devoted and enthusiastic member of the Babysitters Club when I was in elementary school. Once a month, I received a little package with 4 Babysitters books for 2.5 years, I think. There were like 4 books and they only did it from books 1 through 100. So I don't know, however long that math works out, I got my monthly 4 Babysitters Club books. And I truly, genuinely looked forward to this so much. There was also a bunch of like miscellaneous crap in there as well. Like, I don't know, a guide for starting a Babysitters Club. I was like 7 or 8 years old, so I was not in any position to be starting my own Babysitters Club. But yeah, I really, really loved the Babysitters Club books as a child. And question 4 is, why do you love reading? I'm flipping those questions just because I felt like it's important to say up front that I feel like I've always been a reader. And in the 3 decades that I've been reading, I feel like I have learned so much about the world and about myself. I also think that there is something just so magical about books, about the ways in which somebody can spend, years of their life creating this thing, and then they put it out into the world, and then it's not their thing anymore, it's your thing. And I love talking about books and hearing all of the different perspectives that people can have on the same thing. My best friend and I joke all the time about how we've read Pride and Prejudice 4 trillion times, and we talk about it to each other all the time, like whenever one of us is rereading. There's this way in which whenever I talk to somebody about this book who is reading it for like the first or second time, we're not even talking about the same book. Like I have spent so much time thinking about it in my head, but then also like hearing the thoughts that she is having about it, and all of that becomes wrapped up in the experience. The Great Gatsby, which I read for the first time in high school and is, still one of my favorites. I reread it every couple years, and how like, I don't know, the last time that I read it was the first time I read it after my dad died. And like the funeral scene hit me in a like very different way than I think it ever had before. I just think that there is something so remarkable and incredible about having that experience of a book growing with you. Technically, the book was the same, like the words are in the same order, they are what they always have been, but I have not been the same person, and I have been bringing different things to the experience each time I come back to it. And I don't know, I think that that's incredible. Question 6, what questions would you ask for your favorite booktubers? I don't have a good answer to this question because my favorite booktubers are my friends. One thing that is unique about creating bookish content, as opposed to just being a reader, is the difference in reading experiences. Like, reading for content is different than reading off in isolation. And this isn't like a fully formed question, but I think the question that I would ask for anybody who creates bookish content is how they think about that difference, like how they are thinking about the experience of reading. Is it different? Is that even a thing? Or are they like, no, I I don't have that experience at all. I purely just like read as I always did, and then sometimes I make content out of it after. I don't know. I would be broadly interested to hear any bookish content creators, booktubers or otherwise, talk about that like distinction and how they think about it, if they think about it. Question 7, what challenges do you think starting a booktube channel will be the hardest to overcome? I do not like the wording of this question. I am once again not going to answer this question about myself. Okay, so from all the conversations that I've had with people, I feel like there are 3 kind of main things that freak people out about coming onto YouTube. The first is effort. That's like not really the best way to put it, but is the way in which a lot of TikTok is very just like, you pick up your phone, you're having a thought, you pick up your phone, you record the thought, you upload the thought. Related to that, thing 2 is like editing is just very, very different. No CapCut, maybe, I don't know who can say what the fate of all of that will be, but like editing long form stuff, if you're having to learn a new editing tool, that is really scary. And 3 is the algorithm is like fundamentally different here. Okay, so my camera cut me off down in the middle of my answering of this question, and I don't really know how much it recorded. High level thing is that I think that those are like valid challenges. Those are like real hurdles, and the only way out is through. Like, I think that you just kind of have to like get on here and mess around and try and figure it out. The only like real advice that I have is to say, you're right about all of those challenges. The only way out is through. Like, you just, if you want to do it, you should go for it. And like, just accept that those are going to be challenges that you have to overcome. I think that the first thing is that there is like a decent amount of community here on BookTube, and there's a lot of stuff like this. If you want to do things here, you do also have to like watch a lot of YouTube videos as well, right? Like, you cannot just upload and then walk away and expect things to do well. You have to be present beyond just posting things. This is not a set it and forget it platform. I don't actually think that that is super unique here. Like, I think that people who did super well on TikTok, by and large, were also watching a lot of fucking TikTok. And that's like part of how, you know, you draw inspiration and you see like what things people are watching and what's working and whatever. So, you know, you got to be here if you want to be here. I also think that people are probably grossly overthinking the production value difference from TikTok to here. You can record a YouTube video with whatever you have. Like, if you have been making TikTok videos consistently for years, the whatever equipment that you've been doing that with is fine. I don't know how coherent this answer will be from all of the like bits that I'm going to try to piece together here, but you know, I tried. Question 8, when did you start reading? I already answered that question. I feel like that should have been question 4. Like, yeah, I wouldn't have needed to flip 4 and 5 if I had done this question first. You know what? I'm going to correct this in the description. You can do whatever you want, but I'm going to move question 8 up to question 4 when I copy and paste this into the description of this video. Question 9 is, where do you read? And I read everywhere, all over the place. These days I am primarily reading audiobooks, and for much of last year that meant like listening to an audiobook and then, I don't know, like cleaning or playing a stupid little game on my phone. I'm really trying to spend less time staring at my phone, which is a whole other conversation for a whole other day. So I am teaching myself to embroider this year. So that's been my little project, to just listen to my book and work on my little embroidery. I pretty much always co-read, so like audiobook plus physical book, for nonfiction book club books, so that I can get all of my little tabs. Oh, this guy I know has a bunch of tabs. Look at him. Look at that chunky guy with all his tabs. I completely stopped answering the question of where do you like to read, but the answer is everywhere, in my house, at least. I don't really read on the go. I don't really go anywhere because I work from home. So like if I'm going somewhere, I'm like going, and I'm not really bringing a book with me necessarily. Sometimes like airports and airplanes and stuff, but all over the house. What kind of books do you like to read? I love like a weird little book, but Book Talk taught me that I was so wrong about what constitutes a weird little book. What I mean by a weird little book is something that is like, broadly speaking, literary fiction with like some sort of sci-fi, like fantasy elements in it. I don't mean like a door becomes sentient and fuckable. Like, that's not what I mean. I'm gonna link Gracie's video on the history of sentient object romances in the cards and in the description, because it's great and you should watch it. I read pretty much anything. I'm not super into like middle grade and YA. I also don't really gravitate to horror because I'm a baby. I'm a big scaredy cat. For our nonfiction book club, I think our selection has been pretty varied. We got up like whole range of different kinds of science books that we've read, and then a lot of like different social science and like cultural commentary. I guess the things that we haven't really done on nonfiction book club that I don't see us ever doing is memoirs and like self-help books, but those are genres that I do still read. Actually, looking back at my selection here, I do have quite a few YA books. Maybe I like YA more than I think I do. It's more just that like when I find one that hits, and in the last few years, I have only picked up YA books that people that I know and trust have recommended to me, where I'm like, okay, yes. But there's a lot of it that I'm like, it's not for me. The last question on the list, I have an extra one that I've added here, but the last question is, what does your book collection look like? This is not actually all of my books. This right here is all of my nonfiction book club books, although I'm missing the one we just read, Cue the Sun by Emily Nussbaum. You should go watch that live stream on Deboki's channel. And then I have a handful of other nonfiction books over here. You got Big Friendship and Somebody's Daughter, A Paradise Built in Hell. This book right here, The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson, is a book that I would highly recommend to people who don't read a lot of nonfiction. It's a little bit intimidatingly thick. I see that, but it's immensely readable. So The Warmth of Other Suns, the epic story of America's Great Migration. And she's focusing on like a few specific people and like telling their stories in great detail and then interweaving the broader socio-political context throughout that in a way that makes the book read like fiction. So I think that if you are interested in this kind of thing and are like maybe a little bit intimidated by nonfiction, you should pick this up and like don't let the size of the book put you off. It is immensely, immensely readable, I promise. This is not all of my books. This is just a random sample of them, and that's all I'm going to include in this video. I have books sort of all over the house. Anyway, like I said, these are all of my nonfiction book club books. I'll link a playlist in the description if you are interested in those. Down here, these are all like fashion books, like sewing books that I honest and truly don't actually read or use. This one, this was my mom's. She has her associate's degree in fashion merchandising, and I found this book at her house fairly recently and was like, can I please have this? And she said yes. So I have this early 80s fashion marketing approach book. You know, at some point, maybe I'll make it content. And then down on the bottom shelf that you can't see, there's a bunch of like textbooks and stuff. And then over here is like a collection of some favorites. So mostly like the YA. There's some YA stuff kind of up at the top. So Daughter of Smoke and Bone and Hunger Games. Oh, I have one middle grade here, Ghost Squad. Hank's books and Firekeeper's Daughter and Codename Verity and Exit Pursued by a Bear and Binti. And oh, this is probably my favorite of the books on this shelf. Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe. And then I have my French copy of Where the Wild Things Are. And let's see, what else do we have down here? These are some like graphic novels. These are some other favorites of mine. I have His Dark Materials and The Great Gatsby and Lagoon. See, Lagoon is what I mean when I say a weird little book, you know, not sentient object romances. Okay, great. The Memory Police. Okay, actually what I really mean is The Memory Police. This is so good and I'm so fucking excited that they're adapting it with Lily Gladstone. Okay, I've made a mess. Light from Other Stars is also what I mean when I say I like a weird little book. Also, look at how beautiful. Look at how beautiful my little Folio Society edition of The Great Gatsby. Anyway, these are some books that I have. This is a vague sense of my taste. The heating just kicked on, and I really truly cannot turn it off because I turned it way down before I came down to record, which means that it is actually legitimately very cold in this house and the heat does need to be on. And my last question, my thing that I added to the end, which is an essential component of a tag video, is that you have to tag people. I would assume that it is not part of this tag because if you're new, you don't know what people to tag. That's fair. We're in a moment where you might actually have some people to tag. I don't know. I personally am formally, officially tagging Carmen and Lizzie and Meg. I'll put their channels up here. And I also Isabel and Natalia, but they are authors and I don't know. I don't know if they want to do the whole booktube thing. And if you're none of those 5 people and you also want to do it, you can just say that I tagged you. This is it. You see what's happening? I am tagging you to do this. So, okay, thanks. Bye.